Hi, everyone. It's Leilani.
Hi, it's Sonia, and this is Story Starters. So, Story Starters, it's a webcast. It's a conversation that we're having about life stories, and they're coming directly from the people who experience them. This is our inaugural episode, and it's all about growing up Gen X. The Gen Xers that were born roughly between 1965 and 1980, but they experienced their childhood during a unique time, which was the 70s, 80s, and the 90s.
And today's guest is Paul Galvazon. He was born in 1970. He grew up in a town called Mira Mesa, which is a suburb of San Diego, just north of NAS Miramar. Some of you might know NAS Miramar from Top Gun fame. And today he lives in Ohio. He's a dad, an ex-pro soccer player. He's a snowboard instructor. He's a partner at a real retail storefront. And we're super happy to have Paul today. Say hi, Paul.
Hi, ladies. How you doing? Hello from Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah.
Boy, you made me sound very interesting.
Interesting.
It's an honor that you guys chose me to be the first one. So thank you, and I wish you all the best on this new venture. I'm excited to share my story.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So, Paul, we're gonna get some fun stories out of you. One way that we're gonna do it is by shooting off a bunch of rapid fire questions your way. So you'll have little time to think about it. I'm gonna ask a quick question, and you're gonna say the first thing that comes to mind, and we'll just go from there.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Ready?
I'm nervous.
Think of the 80s. Think of the 90s. Ready, set, go. Your favorite artist or your band? Favorite artist or band?
I would have to say Oingo Boingo was a big influence. Thanks to my friend Perry Ludwig.
Favorite TV show?
Different Strokes.
Favorite hangout?
Fuddruckers after football games, the beach, and Pack Heights.
That's a party area, Sonia. Pack Heights.
And Water Ridge, right?
Yeah.
How about a favorite word or saying or phrase?
Rad, which I still say today.
Me too. Okay, a little bit harder. What's one thing that you hated about the 70s or 80s or even 90s?
Oh, let's see. We had lack of television, right? In the 70s, I would say Little House on the Prairie.
I hated Nellie. She was such a meanie.
You know, Jason Bateman was in that show.
What?
Yeah, he was a little kid, and now he's writing Ozark.
Way. Okay, what's one thing you loved about the 70s or 80s?
I loved that we played outside all the time.
Yeah, it got dirty, right?
Yeah. Dirt under the fingernails, and sense of adventure.
And then in one word, this might be hard, but if you were to pick one word, what word would describe the 80s?
Neon.
Neon.
I hated neon too.
Neon, fluorescent. He didn't say he hated neon. That's good.
No, but I'm saying
it was
I hated neon.
Colorful time. It was a colorful time.
Oh, that's good. All right. So that was a little warm up because we love to talk about stories. And so we want to go a little deeper. We want to go back to your childhood and help us describe the landscape of your childhood.
Okay. So we ended up in Mira Mesa, affectionately known as Manila Mesa back in the day. But we ended up there because my dad was in the Navy in 1973. And we lived in one of the first neighborhoods on off Weston Hill, and it was still being developed. We were in one of the first Pardee homes, Pardee, not Partee, but
okay.
It was just the landscape was there were trails where there's condos now, so you could get on your bike and go to the trails or go to Horseman's Park, where everybody talked about, you know, searching for crawdads, and you know, that was between Mira Mesa and Penasquito, Rancho Penasquitos, and you know, it was a time of where it was okay to go on your bike and, you know, let your parents know, and there wasn't a real concern.
Aw.
Here, I'm just showing a picture of your family.
Oh yeah.
Here, Paul, can you tell us who's part of your family?
Yeah, so to the left of me is my brother James, who's 5 years older than me, and my mom Judy, of course, and then my dad Ernie. That's at my aunt and uncle's wedding, and I, you know, I can't remember how it was a soccer injury, which is a big part of my life. I'm wearing a, you know, my mom had cut my slacks so that my cast could fit over.
Oh my
that.
God, I just noticed that. Hilarious.
Yeah. And I had the nice bowl cut, looks like.
Yeah, it's kind of like
a nice memory.
the kid in Stranger Things, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Nice.
Oh. So tell me, you love the outdoors, and you were obviously, you know, very active, a lot of sports. Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, you know, part of the journey was, I mean, really started out front of our house on Decatur Road, and whether it was playing baseball out on the street, with tennis balls, or football, soccer, skateboarding around the street. You know, I started playing AYSO soccer because my brother James started playing soccer, and then that just kind of stuck with me. And fortunately, I had good coaches that really kind of influenced me to want to learn more about the fun sport of soccer, which ended up taking me to several awesome cities, and met tremendous friends through the sport. You know, oh wow, this is a nice photo. I'm looking at, this was my first team, the Tiburones, which means shark in Spanish, and the kid to my left, I'm the one at the right there, Leo Rontes, though, down at the bottom left. Him and I played at the University of San Diego. We were toreros together on the Division I soccer team that went to Sweet 16, losing to UCLA. But yeah, some of these kids here I still talk to. Joey Pliwak, I talk to him virtually. Of course, his dad just passed away, so rest in peace to Jerry. But yeah, this is a wonderful time here.
Awesome. Who were some of your influencers? Probably
who I look up to. I mean, Pele was massive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, someone to look up to. And then, you know, fortunately, growing up in San Diego, we had the San Diego Sockers, who had wonderful players, different countries, and we had the pleasure of being able to watch them down at Jack Murphy Stadium, which is Qualcomm, but which is sadly, I guess, being torn down from what I understand. And then, of course, watching the San Diego Sockers in the sports arena, and then playing in the sports arena when I ended up getting drafted by Ron Newman out of college.
Were all your role models as a kid, were they all like athletes, sports stars?
No, there was, you know, Evel Knievel, of course.
Oh my God,
you know,
Knievel.
You know, we'd always look forward to what was he going to do? You know, is he going to jump the fountains in Las Vegas, or is he going to, you know, what was it, at Caesars maybe, or over the Grand Canyon. So I remember, you know, he was a big influence that you always look forward to. But yeah, in the soccer world, Pele, still to this day.
I love it. All right. What about indoors? Did you do anything indoors?
Played a little bit of video games. You know, we had one of the first, maybe we had the second generation. The first generation was the Atari 2600, but, you know, a lot of time was spent at my grandparents' house in Kearney Mesa. And my uncle, he was one of those uncles that mastered everything, but would get bored of one thing. But he was the one that had the first computer. I think it was like the Tandy computer from Radio Shack, and then he was the one that had the phone that made the funny sound, and he was on these message boards. So, you know, tapping into that through him, but also playing video games. But those video games back then weren't like it is today, where they last forever. It was like Pac-Man was my favorite, and asteroids and things like that. But you gradually find yourself outside. So inside, it wasn't too much.
Yeah, it's interesting because there was that transition, right, from just playing outside and with your friends and getting dirty, and then all of a sudden there's these video games that you play on TV, and then everybody had an Atari, and
Right.
it was kind of like, huh.
Yeah, the days of going to the arcade and stacking your quarter up on the machine to wait your turn, and
Yeah, but the
something special
arcades
about
were huge, right? Big arcades and like
the arcades were
hundreds
the
of
arcades were
games.
huge. You had Yellow Brick Road at UTC, of course. You had Malibu,
Yep.
which you could race the cars. I never did race those cars. And then we had one up by Burger King. Behind Burger King, there was an arcade place there. There was the comic book stores too,
Yeah.
that were a big influence.
What were the comics
was
that
the
you?
precursor to X-Men, of course. I loved X-Men.
Was there X-Men back then?
There was X-Men. Yeah, I was probably.
Sorry, comic people, I'm a noob.
Yeah, X-Men was back then. At least when I was 12, I think.
Okay.
So, and my brother used to put him in. That's when I learned. My brother used to put him in the plastic, protectors and whatnot. So, yeah, X-Men was one of my favorites to read. And he had some first edition Supermans.
Wow.
What else? What about music?
Okay, so music in the 70s. Gosh, we had in the living room, we had the record player that you could slide open. It was really cool, actually. You could slide open, and I had a collection. It was like Michael Jackson, of course, was a big influence. Rock With You, Off the Wall, and then the Sugar Hill Gang. I had those, and I had Kiss. Gene Simmons with his blood, tongue and all that stuff. But Paul Stanley. But so it was kind of, and then the Commodores. So it was a nice mix of music early on, and then of course the 80s brought us wonderful talent. So.
Did you sing or dance or have any passion around music?
Oh yeah, Michael Jackson was the first real one that, of course, you hear the music and it just gets you going. And then of course I was part of, breakdancing was a big influence, and the movies Beach Street, and I still seems like yesterday, but I remember bringing over linoleum. Or cardboard linoleum or something over to my friend Mike Demko's house, and he's just like, "What's this all about?" And then I laid it down in their game room upstairs and just did a backspin, and so
you bring your own,
pop lock in, and I still do that every now and then around the kids, and they just kind of give me a funny look. But
Did you do that with like a group, or was it just kind of like you called each other?
I a little bit here and there, but I was, I didn't take it as far as like, the Raul Bagaporos of the world. I think soccer kind of kept me, into athletics, but I could never get that helicopter down. But but the music back into that, it's like Egypt, it's in my head. I hear that. So it was just nice to be. It was nice to grow up during that whole start of like real hip hop and break dancing, and and now b-boy dancing is still big today. Like with the Red Bull series, and I show my kids. It's amazing what these guys do and women do currently. Yeah. It's nice to see that it's still going on.
Yeah. Do you tell your kids, back in my day, it was like the beginning of all this stuff?
Yes.
Yeah, every now and then it's funny to see them dance a little bit. But I show them moves every now and then, and like I said, they just give me funny look, like, "What are you doing, Dad?"
when were you breakdancing? Is this like junior high or high
That
school?
would have, how breakdancing would have been like junior high, like Wagenheim time, you know. But I think we did something in a talent show. Man, now I'm trying to go back in my head here. If I was part of a talent show back then, I think I was in at Wagenheim. But
Yeah.
just there were just a lot of times, whether it was at parties or people's garages. I remember going to people's garages and practicing. I think there was a time at Rawls' house or somebody's house. Now I'm having to go way back, but I just remember going into people's garages and trying to practice. Practicing at home in front of the mirror in the living room.
So, Leilani, did you witness any of this? Because the two of you went to high school together.
We did go to high school together, and honestly, I think I did witness the talent show, and I want to say you're right. It was at Wangenheim Junior High, and I can't recall who you were with, but man, that was the thing, right? They had all their Izod shirts with the collars like lift up, and they might have had like their members only jackets on.
Yeah,
and doing their little. I don't even want to embarrass myself by trying it, but
no, those were fun times. And like my brother James is 5 years older than me. I remember him. He was in a band called, it's kind of a crazy name. It was called Jailbait, and they played at Wagenheim live.
I remember that.
And they played like Missing Persons. They played Berlin. Metro. Remember that song?
Yeah.
Metro. Yeah. And so, and I remember just being like idolizing, my brother when he played in our school. And I just remember my uncle, who's special forces retired. He was our campus policeman at Wangenheim, my Uncle Charlie. So there's some fond memories, but yeah, a lot of dancing, a lot of playing outside.
So as Sonia had mentioned, we grew up together. We went to high school together. So I wanted to share with all the viewers our high school. And so here we are. This is our class of 1988 at Mira Mesa High School. We were the largest graduating class that year. I think we had like 1,000 students. And
we did.
You think that in a school that has thousands of students, you don't really stand out. But sometimes you make yourself stand out. So here's Paul, front and center, right behind
old school Adidas top too. I love it.
Yeah, right behind the football team.
With Mike Demko and Kevin McDonald, it looks like, and Mike has his tongue out for whatever reason. That's funny.
Anyway, so
what a memory.
I know. I'm sure
listen, before that, sorry to cut you off, but before that, Leilani and I went to 2 elementary schools, right?
Yes.
Green and Walker, and then we were part of the dance, like the Filipino culture, the Tinikling dance too. So
right, yeah, it's funny. When we were younger, I guess there was a lot of emphasis on international cultures at the school. We were in a very diverse community, and every year we had an international fair, and
it was
so
with the bamboo sticks.
It was, and so we danced Tinikling, and Paul and I were partners.
That's right.
Paul and I were partners, and we freaking kicked ass.
Yeah, we did. I remember that clearly. I mean, there's certain things in life you remember either traumatic or wonderful moments, and that was a wonderful moment. But we were so afraid to get hit by the bamboo sticks because it did happen a few times. But anyway, I remember that. I didn't want to forget bringing that up. So,
good memory.
So, Paul, there's a lot of moments and experiences that you had probably in high school. That was a time for us to figure out who we are as people, right? So are there a couple specifically in high school that stand out to you? Like when you get together with friends or talk to friends now, like, hey, remember that time we did this? Like what are those standout moments for you?
Standout moments. I mean, really, like air bands was a big one. It was, we were kind of part of that first generation of air bands where you go up and you try to play you mimic, an artist or a band. And that stands out to me because we ended up going to the city finals at San Diego State. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
That first one on the left, I was the Indian in the Village People. That was that was a fun time. And actually, gosh, things like I remember, like I was with Sam Ward and Vinny Lopez, and we were in Sam's Volkswagen GTI, and we were going to air bands, and we ended up getting hit on Mira Mesa Boulevard
Oh my
by a
gosh.
car that was trying to run the other, like that slow lane, and they went illegally, but they slammed into us, and the show continued to go on because we were okay to do it. But I'll never forget that. Then of course Oingo Boingo was a lot of fun, and gosh, Stacy Lambeth in there, rest in peace to him. But I remember falling off the stage when I was dressed in a devil outfit, for our school finals, and popped back up and just got back up on the stage and thought I'd lost it for us, and we ended up winning and going to San Diego State. So those are times that really stand out, and hold on to those memories. So a lot of those guys are still my friends today, the majority of them.
Yeah, it's amazing. I feel like our class was very special, very close knit, even today. If you could change one thing about what you did in high school, what would it be?
One thing. I don't necessarily know if I would change anything. That's really boring, isn't it? Yeah, maybe gotten more involved in some of the, not politics of school, but like maybe got more involved outside of athletics. Yeah, I mean, I really can't. I feel like I had a wonderful experience in high school. Took some Spanish and kind of learned that because, of course, we're so close to the border, so it made sense, right?
Right.
Learning Spanish and trying to use it down in Tijuana. But I can't really think of any. I know that's not the answer you're looking for, but I'm really
No, this
if I
is
could
your life,
change
man.
one thing. Yeah, no. I mean, no. I've lived I had a pretty good, pretty good high school years. So
Cool.
maybe
you
applied
wear
myself
buttons
more. What's that?
What did you say?
I said maybe applied myself a little bit more. I mean, I got good grades, but
Maybe that's what your mom told you.
yeah, right.
Did you get the hand-me-down car, or did you get the car you wanted when you started driving?
Oh, I got the hand-me-down car. I'll never forget when my dad got his Chevy Chevette. I was so embarrassed of that car, but I ended up getting the Toyota Corona. It was like a white Toyota Corona, right? How ironic is that? It was a Toyota Corona.
Right. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, that's not the exact one, but that looks that's pretty close, and it had the maroon kind of velour interior.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that was a fun car. I might have driven it a little too crazy at times.
That's so funny. What did you imagine life was going to be like after high school? Did you worry about that? Worry what you were going to do, what you were going to be, or anything like that?
From a pretty early age, I knew that I wanted to play soccer. So I was driven to play soccer, whether it was out front of our garage and slamming the ball into the garage, playing with my neighbor Kim Worthen, who lived, in the cul-de-sac up from me, to, just going. I remember going to the high school and practicing in the outdoor racquetball courts, or meeting people to play up at the high school field. Whether it was Sean Bowers or Mike Demko or all these people. And I just remember being driven. I was going to play in college, which I did. And then I was going to go pro, which I ended up going pro. So, yeah, I mean, fortunately, those are nice memories right there. That's with the Seattle Sounders back in 1998, I think. And then the Sacramento Knights indoor.
So
those are, I mean, fortunately, the sport's taken me to several cities and met incredible people, which I'm still friends with to this day.
So tell me about that. I mean, how many kids who dream of being pro athletes actually become pro athletes? right? When you found out
Yeah.
that you became part of a pro team, like what was
You
that?
know what's crazy about that, Leilani, is that the percentage is supposed to be very small, right?
Yeah.
That happens. Well, our Mira Mesa produced quite a few pro players, whether it was Robert Patterson, myself, Mike Demko, Sean Bowers, who I would say is the most successful out of all of us at that level. But we produced a lot of good players out of Mira Mesa. And a lot of that, goes back to being around good coaches when you're young that are a good influence as opposed to, having the opposite of that, where somebody completely turns you off to a sport for a bad experience. And it can happen like that, right? So,
Yeah.
So a lot, it was nice that it worked out. And I'm glad I retired when I retired, because it was right when the internet was taking off, and, had some contract problems. And I was like, you know what's a growth industry? And fortunately in '98, the internet came around. So
Isn't that crazy? You grew up with the beginning of hip hop and R&B,
yeah.
not R&B, but hip hop for sure, rap,
Yeah.
and then the beginning of video games, and then the beginning of internet. I mean, that's what it is being a Gen Xer, right?
Totally. And I lived in Seattle. at a time when Amazon was just nothing,
Yeah.
So I remember we were playing pickup up there at Microsoft's campus, and this helicopter lands, and it's Bill Gates landing on the field, and all the security coming out. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy how many moments that we were part of in growing up when it first started taking off, right? So I feel fortunate to have grown up during the time that we all grew up. It's tough for kids, it seems, and I'm sure that the other generations have said that about us. But with social media and just one click away and things like that, the pressure these millennials, if you want to call them that, have on them.
Yeah, especially the young ones these days. And you're married and you have 2 boys?
Married, have 2 boys, and my wife's name is Lisa, and I ended up out here in Columbus, Ohio, because Lisa we have the modern blended family. Oh, nice. All right, so we have I've got my stepson Anthony in the right photo, who's 25 now. He was 12 at the time, and then Ryan is 21. She was 8, and that's Callum with the long hair, who is 12, and then Makai there, who is 10, almost 11 in November. So I'd moved out here because Lisa wasn't moving to San Diego, and I thought it was all cows and pastures before I moved out here. And Columbus, pleasantly surprised that it's got a thriving city. It's within half 500 miles of half the U.S. population. But I feel fortunate that she comes from a wonderful family, and I miss my family and friends out west, and I miss surfing. But I was able to get involved in the snowboarding. Yes, there's snowboarding out here in Ohio, like the community teaching, and I still play soccer today in men's league, and open to business. So, but so I ended up moving out here. I've been out here for 13 years, and my kids are in athletics. But we just came from my son's baseball game. Makai, it's his first season, and he almost hit a home run tonight, just before the fence. So, and
He must have been stoked.
Totally, yeah. It was nice to see, and he's a wonderful soccer player, so it's nice to see that as well. And my son Callum's actually a goalkeeper, which fortunately is getting some height from Lisa's side of the family, because our side is primarily short. A few uncles in the Philippines that are taller. But yeah, Columbus is a nice city, actually.
Is there anything that comes to mind that, watching your sons grow up, it sounds like they're following in mom and dad's footsteps, especially dad's, but anything you would have wanted them to experience or wish they experienced like you did in the 70s or 80s?
They are kind of, we're fortunate that my in-laws have a couple lake cottages, houses up on Lake Erie, and it's a gated community. And we call it like the kids are free range because you can let them go for the day and not feel worried that things are going to happen to them because it is gated. So it's a little bubble. It's like almost stepping back in time to Back to the Future, you know, that kind of town. But I think we live on 2 acres out here, and I think living in a neighborhood where you could just go outside and you know, be out on the street and there's baseball going on, or there's football, or you know, tackle football in the yards, or getting on your bike and going exploring. I mean, I remember we used to go up to the trails between near the rec center, which is all condos now, of course. But we used to go crawl in the sewage, the drainage system where it was all clean. It was a small crawl hole, and we'd crawl in there, and then it would end up like on Westmore Street. So you'd climb up the ladder and peek out, and you know where the drain is, the sewer drain. So just that sense of adventure and not sure where it was taking you.
Yeah.
I would be mortified if my kid did that.
I don't even think we told my mom. It was one of the things like, all right, we can't say anything that we did this, but you know, just things like that, like getting on our bike and going to Horseman's Park, which I mentioned earlier. You know, that was the big bike ride over, you know, down the hill, Black Mountain Road, and going to, you know, search for crawdads, and yeah, I think having my kids experience that outside of the lakeside, which is where we go, would be something that I'd want them to experience.
Yeah.
More, playing outside more. They have some neighborhood kids. They just moved, but like, you know, there's a lot of land in between, so it's not like the normal suburb, if you will. But there's some benefits to that too.
Mm-hmm. Great. I think I have one final question to ask, unless you have anything else, Leilani. But
No.
we talked a little bit about music and your sliding record player, whatever that was.
With the 33s and the 45s, yeah.
Okay. I didn't have that, but I did have.
And then I got mad at my brother, by the way, and I broke my Kiss record, and I'll never forgive myself for that. I remember I broke the double platinum, and I look back on that, I'm like, what a fool I was. But sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, but what I remember were the cassette tapes. So making the mixtapes.
Yes.
So if you were to make your own 80s mixtape, share a little bit what some of those songs would be.
Oh gosh, 80s. Okay, so you'd have to have some Michael on there, probably Billie Jean. I think that was 80s. You know, you'd have to have some Run DMC, LL Cool J. You'd have to have some New Order, Bizarre Love Triangle, right? That always reminds me of high school Tijuana trips.
Yeah.
I think, of course, I already mentioned Egypt. You know, Debbie Deb, Lookout Weekend was a song that just in my head. You know, the Corny, the Spandau Ballet, True, like that. I just remember that. I think that was the 80s. Then, of course, the Smiths and Echo and the Bunnymen. You know, so I was all over the place, except I wasn't a big country guy. You know, Depeche Mode, of course, was a big influence. So yeah, that kind of stuff. And the Rapper's Delight, I think Rapper's Delight, was that during the 80s or that was the 70s, wasn't it?
I think that was like late 70s or early 80s.
Okay.
It might have been on that cusp, like at 80.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like
But
I
would
was
totally listen to your mixtape, by the way.
I would too.
Yeah, and even like, gosh, I hate to say this, the Culture Club. I mean, those songs are, you know, seem like they're, yeah. And there's your wall. Oh my gosh, there was so much good music back then, though. I mean, yeah, I think I see, was that Men at Work in the upper right that you have there? So that would be my mix. That's not, I can't really, that's my 50-year-old eyes. But yeah, I mean, that would be my 80s mixtape.
Cool.
I love your stories.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I love
Oh, thanks for having me.
hearing your stories, and we're so grateful that you are willing to join and share them with us and more broadly. So thank you for being our first guest.
No, thank you. I look forward to hearing other people's stories that you have on for My Legacy. So I'm honored that you guys had me on. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So everybody who's watching, if you want to follow Paul, his Instagram handle is on here. We have ours as well for My Legacy. We hope you enjoyed the episode of Story Starters. This was our inaugural episode, and it is brought to you by My Legacy, which is a company that Sonia and I recently founded because we're really interested in learning about authentic stories and making it easy for people to tell their life stories. So if you want to learn more about that, visit us at my-legacy.com. And if you want to be on a future Story Starters, let us know. There's a checkbox for that too. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Paul.
Take care.